And we are back in the studio with Lisa Waters Lain, my favorite gal. Good morning, my dear.
Good morning.
Hey, you got it going on today. You look
Do I?
good.
Do I kind of match? I tried to match my earrings to my shirt.
Men don't notice that you're matching. They just go, dang, she's pretty.
Okay.
Maybe matching helps some. You just got it going on. You look young and vibrant. You got this glow about you. So you've got
Okay.
some sunshine,
Yes.
some lake time.
Did get some lake time. Got some sun. Yeah.
It was
It
very
was
nice. So this is a Q&A segment. That is, what are your neighbors talking about? And boy, has it ever been an active garden season. Some
Mhm.
folks are running from fires. Others are dealing with frost. Others are planting like crazy. Some are trying to block, screen out people. Just there's a lot going on here at the garden center. So typical spring season, except for the
Yeah.
fire thing. That was kind of a weird one. Hopefully
Yeah.
that settles down.
Hopefully, get it under control.
What
Yeah.
kind of questions we got?
Well, guess what the number one question
Yeah.
was this week
Yeah.
on phone, online, in the
My
sky.
frost damage, frost
Yeah.
damage, frost damage. I was
Yes.
helping. I mean, every other customer is.
Mhm.
I bought this thing. I planted it, and I had one person. They put wool blankets over their, I think, tomatoes or something, and it still
It
got
was
to.
a cold.
That's crazy. Never
Yeah,
thought that would be the
yeah.
case.
So I thought we should probably take a minute or two and just
Sure.
kind of cover that, because if that many people are calling, there's
Yeah.
a lot of people that aren't calling that are wondering the same thing.
Yep.
So a lot of trees that were in bloom or brand new leaves, a lot of shrubs, some veggies, things like that. So what should people do? What should they be looking for, and how to take care of it?
So I guess describe frost damage. What happens is that new tender growth starts to emerge, and then it freezes. And so literally the tissue cells in the foliage will freeze. And now the plant is trying to send that leaf moisture, but it can't get to it. So it quickly dries up and starts to just gets crispy. And so you'll see that you can rub your hand up and down the foliage and it's just like crisp dried out.
Yep.
Or that's a plant that had, let's say, Japanese maples got hit pretty hard. Sycamores got hit pretty hard. There's a lot of different things got hit. The peach trees, the fruits, were starting to form on like apricots, nectarines, certain things. And so it froze. That fruit actually froze. It's like you took a fresh peach from the grocery store, say Sprouts or something. You take it and put it in the freezer, and then you pull it out in a couple of days. What does it look like when you pull it out? Not very nice. That's what happened on the tree.
Right.
The same thing. So the fruit will actually start to shrivel. It'll start to shrink. Then it'll get kind of wrinkly, and then it'll kind of drop off. And so if that happened to your fruit, there's no recovery. The tree is fine.
Right.
The fruit you've lost this year. So it was a freak. And we were looking at 29 degrees. I thought, oh, this won't be that bad. 29, 30 trees. Some fruit will get damaged, but not all of it. That's good until you get to the mid 20s. So with fruit trees or fruits in general, if it goes to 32 degrees, you lose 10% of your fruit, the outer edges. If you go to 30 degrees, 31 degrees, you lose 10% more. Well, if you go to 28 degrees, you lose 100% of your fruit. 28 is that magic number that agriculture folks kind of use as a gauge. And that's why they'll go out there and water plants. They'll cover plants and put fans of heat devices, lights, shop lights. And so if you did some of that, you might have saved the core of that fruit. But if you didn't do anything, you probably lost at least above that 5,000 foot level and above, you probably lost your fruit this year. You'll get beautiful shade this summer. It'll be great fall color. You just might not get much fruit.
Right.
Tomatoes, vegetables, that kind of stuff. Basil, like we lost a flat of basil.
Yeah.
It just got too cold and they just don't like the cold. Those are tropical plants.
Right.
That's like putting a parakeet out there and watching them enjoy the cold. They don't do that. They're not sparrows and finches. They're parakeets. They don't like that kind of cold. So they would have died. Sometimes those will turn kind of black. So they get kind of wilty and brown, mushy. They'll limp over, fall over. And once they do that, there's no recovery. You just lost them. And I don't think any amount of covering
would have helped.
That was so extreme. That's just Mother Nature
Mhm.
took out the gardens. Luckily, it happened early, so we can recover pretty easily for another
Sure.
$6-7. You can start over again and kind of leapfrog and make it happen. But those are things you're looking at with frost.
Mhm.
Unless you brought them indoors, you had a greenhouse. A lot of folks brought them into their garages.
Mhm.
They protected them. Those were fine. The ones that were left out those couple nights, things that didn't get damaged, they loved that. The pansies, the violas, our peony is in full glorious bloom.
Yeah, it is.
It loved that cold.
Right.
Didn't affect it at all. Actually, will bloom longer now that you've got that. Your lilacs, they're starting to open up now. They weren't affected at all. In fact, it'll probably bloom longer.
Mhm.
What will benefit you is that kind of extreme this early in spring really wreaks havoc on aphids and thrip.
Thank
So what you'll
heavens.
find, yeah, it can actually be a benefit. You
Yeah.
lost a few plants, but the plants that survived really will do better because they don't have those thrip inside the flowers, eating the flowers, because
Mhm.
the cold took those bugs out or
Right.
thinned the population.
Right.
So anyway,
But
it was
all
a
is
rough.
not lost. Your
No,
trees and shrubs, they'll put new leaves out.
yeah,
Mother
that's
Nature's
right.
pretty smart and she knows how to
Yeah.
put new leaves out. And you just got to be the patient.
Yes, that's a hard one. We are Americans. We are not patient. We want it now. It was looking so good. Recover now.
Yeah.
It'll probably take, let's say a Japanese maple got the
Mhm.
foliage, brand new foliage came out. It might take 3 or 4 weeks because it's going to have to form new
New
leaf
buds.
buds
Mhm.
that will form. So it'll form brand new foliage up and down that stem. So if you can, rub that old crusty foliage off so it
Right.
exposes it to more light.
Mhm.
The bark will warm up and then it will form those leaf buds faster that
Mhm.
way. So and I would say if you haven't fertilized, or even if you have fertilized, fertilize some more because it's going to take some nutrients. It's going to take some more food to
Mhm.
create all that foliage.
Right.
All that energy it stored up before has been lost because it was spent on the leaves that were there.
Mhm.
And now it might be a little bit hungry. It would benefit to put a little bit more like
Food on.
7-4-4 all-purpose food on your plants, trees,
Okay.
shrubs, whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, we got time for one more question after all that, I think. So Brian out in Chino, he has fruit trees and raspberries going on season 2.
Right
So
on.
second season. He wants to know how often should he be watering this season
Sure.
and fertilizing?
So really grapes, berries, blueberries, boysenberries, all those edible fruits. They're heavy feeders,
Mhm.
and so I recommend we fertilize ours probably every 6 weeks or so, maybe every other month or something like that, with a good granular food
Mhm.
if they're in the ground. And so that will really get them to elongate because they're going to push 12 foot of growth. The amount of energy it takes to push all that new cane
Yeah.
growth or all that new vine growth is tremendous.
Yeah.
And so they tend to be a little bit heavier feeder. I would say the same thing with like climbing roses.
Mhm.
That to put on that really long cane takes a lot of energy. So all these plants are in that same genre. So then you go back to watering. I guess what to water with, what to fertilize with. Berries, like we make a fruit and vegetable food.
Mhm.
It's loaded up with calcium, which will really bring out the size of the berry and the flavor. It will melt in your mouth. It's like calcium is what brings the most out of fruiting plants.
Mm.
So put that granular food on every 6-8 weeks. Watering, you're probably going to water once a week. Be really careful when they're forming their fruit. It's a bit early yet, but once they start to set fruit, if they get stressed at all, they'll take the moisture from the berry and use it to
Mhm.
keep the heart of the plant alive. So I would say maybe every 5 to 7 days for something that's heavy with fruit. Until then, once a week is more than enough
Mhm.
to encourage treat it like your trees or your roses. One deep soak a week is really good for berry plants, grapes plants. So
Right.
we're out of time. Wow. Thank you, Lisa.
Wow.
Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back after this.